He was just a student chasing his first love. When chance finally came and she visited, he thought it was everything he dreamed of. But one mistake changed everything. Here's how it happened. So, she had finally agreed to visit him, to come to his small university hostel. He still couldn't believe it. A girl like her saying yes to a guy like him. It felt unreal, but here she was. And the best part, she'd insisted on cooking lunch for them. He'd watched her move around his tiny room like she belonged there. He kept pinching himself. Was he awake? Was it real? Yes, it was happening. It was no dream. She was here. She'd cooked the only food he had left, the last bit of his small stash. He had spent his last pocket money to buy this food. He knew that meant hunger in the days coming ahead, but he didn't care. He told himself this is what men did. They took risks for love, and for him, she was worth every penny. He had even paid her tax fare, otherwise she wouldn't have come. But what other choice did he have? How often does a guy like him get this lucky? He first met this girl at a cousin's wedding. She'd been seated right across from him at the same table. He'd instantly noticed her beauty. No way a girl as beautiful as her could go anywhere unnoticed, he could swear. Another cousin who happened to be her friend had been very kind and generous and introduced them. During that brief moment of introduction, he'd had someone say she had just finished high school waiting to start college. But honestly, he hadn't had much after that because he was distracted by this jaw-dropping beauty of the girl. Every time she smiled, he felt something rise inside him. It wasn't just attraction, it was something deeper. Maybe this was what people meant by love at first sight. He didn't know, but it surely felt like it. He remembered that evening like a blur. His cousins had gone off to dance, but he stayed talking with her. He'd listened to her talk about food, about the music, about the wedding cake, her laughter. It was shy but bold at the same time. He couldn't stop watching her. The night had moved too fast. He never wanted it to end. She had completely captured him and captivated his heart. He'd stumbled over words that night, unsure what to say or how to act. Everything inside him was loud, yet his voice had failed him. When the music slowed and people started leaving, he'd finally asked her for her number. His hands had trembled as he typed it inside his phone, afraid he'd lose it somehow. For days, he just stared at the number on his phone. He could not find the simple courage to even text her. He kept wondering what to say. What if she ignored him? What if she replied too late? He had no idea how these things worked. He had no idea. When he finally sent her the first message, it was simple, just asking if she had reached home safely. She'd been so kind and replied, yes, she had. That small message kept him awake half the night. So they kept texting slowly, awkwardly. There was nothing deep really, only greetings and small talk. But to him, every reply felt like a flame. Then one day he mustered some wild courage. He asked if she could visit him. Not anywhere, but at his small hostel. She had hesitated, but later agreed. She said she could only come for a few hours because that's all her parents could allow. And that's how it started, the visit he had dreamed of. The story I'm about to tell you. So lean in, ladies and gentlemen. This will leave you gasping. Now, she was. She had cooked, they had eaten. Their talk kept breaking, falling into quiet gaps. A few shy nods filled the silence now and then. Time slipped by so fast than he really liked. She sat on his small bed folding his clothes like it was the most natural thing in the world. The TV filled the space with her favorite soap opera. He was thankful for it. That TV spoke while they couldn't speak. He looked out the window. The sky was painted pink. The toilet was creeping in. Shadows were stretching across his room. He could feel time running out. He started pacing. His heart raced. His mind buzzed. He was getting restless. Why? It was what next? What could he say to make her stay? That was making him restless. In fact, more than that, he wanted her to be his girl. His only one, and it could begin with her staying that night, sharing his small squeaky bed with him in it. He wanted to hear himself say all the words he'd never said, but the words just wouldn't come. His mind was full of them, but his lips were just empty of them. The weight of silence pressed down onto him. It was heavy. The room felt smaller, tighter, suffocating almost. He needed to move. So he went to the washroom, grabbed his toothbrush, and started brushing, pretending to be busy, to hide the noise that was just roaring inside his head. When he came back, she hadn't moved. She was still folding her hands steadily and surely, moving around with clothes. The TV light was now filling the room. The sound of the soap opera filled the room. But between them, there was total silence. For a moment, he just watched her, the way she folded his clothes, slowly, carefully, neatly, like she'd done it 100 times before. He couldn't look away. It puzzled him. How could she do something so simple and make it so graceful and beautiful? He wiped his face with a towel, threw it on the bed, and sat down beside her. His mind spun. He hummed softly, pretending to be calm, but inside he was struggling against a wave of emotions. He inched close and closer, then closer. But the neatly folded clothes between them stopped him. It was like a soft wall of cotton. She didn't notice. Her eyes were on the TV. Her hands kept moving, folding, refolding. He reached out and tapped her shoulder. The fabric of her blouse felt warm under his fingers. She turned. For a moment, their eyes met. And then she smiled. Oh, that smile, it broke him. It stripped away the little courage he had. He felt small, like the boy he really was beneath all the pretending. His lips trembled, then twisted into a shy, crooked smile. He could feel the night creeping in. Soon she would leave. The thought of her walking out of the door cut deep than 1,000 tiny knives in his chest. He couldn't let that happen. Not without saying something, not without letting her know what he felt inside. He wanted to tell her everything he was experiencing inside. That his heart was racing, but his mind was scrambling for words. He could feel them building, crowding behind his lips, but nothing really came out. She turned again to the TV. Her favorite part had started. He panicked. He needed her to look at him, to see him. His hand moved, slow and certain, and rested on her leg. It was warm through the denims. She didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the screen. But her hands, they stopped. He hesitated. Then, like a spark of dry grass, something wild flared up. He didn't think. He didn't pause. In a blink, his hand pushed aside the clothes that were between them, and then his lips went crashing into hers. For a moment, the world held still. Everything slowed, hanging in the air. His breath, her silence, even the flick of the TV, all froze. Then suddenly, everything broke loose. In a blink, she was beneath him, pinned to the bed. His hands moved faster than his thoughts. Buttons snapped, fabric tore, her blouse gave way. His fingers fumbled with her jeans. She struggled, she fought, pushed back against him with both of her hands. Her fists landed soft, desperate blows on his arms, or on his back, pushing on his neck, scratching. He couldn't let go. His mind was too far gone. Her breath came in gasps. Her voice cracked into whimpers. Still, his hands moved clumsily, driven by hunger that burned through reason. He didn't see her fear, didn't hear the panic in her voice. He was lost inside himself. Then her tears came, quiet at first, warm against his skin. Then came the groans, the heaving, and finally the loud screams that rang through the hostel. It cut through the room like glass, breaking sharp, high, and bearable. Her hands grabbed her zipper, fighting. The zipper was tearing into her skin. His own hands gripped it too. They were strong and unshakable. Her knuckles reddened. She fought to hold the jeans in place. She screamed again, louder and louder. Her voice filled the entire room and broke through the hostel, spilled across the hostel. Then slowly her voice, screaming, started to pierce the fog in his mind, like someone crying from afar. And suddenly, everything stopped. It was like waking from a nightmare. The sound of her scream pulled him back to himself. She was beneath him, crying, her voice breaking the air. Horror struck him at once. His hands went weak, his grip loosened. Her sobs sliced through him. He froze, then slowly lifted himself up, moving like a man waking from a very terrible dream. He sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. His breath came in short bursts. His hands were trembling. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat. Fear, shame, disbelief. He turned and looked at her. She was shaking. Her hair tangled, sticking to her wet face. Her blouse torn, her jeans half open. She was crying. Her body then cowled itself, trying to hide her innocence, to disappear from all this chaos inside the room. He wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but his voice was now gone. He wished he could turn back and time and rewind it and do what he had just done, but there was nothing. There was no way he could undo it. He slid off the bed, sank to the floor, and pulled his knees close to his back. He pressed. He buried his face between his arms. The world around went still and quiet. It was only her sobs and the sound of the TV that dared make a sound. So that's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us to the very end of this story. In his story, we saw how emotions can lead to choices and moments that can change everything for us. And this reminds us of how fragile one can become in the face of heavy emotions, which calls us to always exercise caution and never ever to mistake silence for consent. It's a story that asks us to pause, to think, and to do better in our lives. So if this story moved you, please let us know in the comments so that we can keep this conversation going. And please also support our channel, which is still very young, by subscribing, liking, and sharing. We still have a lot of stories in store for you. And every week we share a story with you here. Every Wednesday our story goes live. So please stay tuned. And also visit our website for more powerful stories for you to read, including children's stories for your young ones. Those stories are very inspiring for young kids, and there's a lot of lessons embedded in there. So, thank you very much. In fact, all the links to the website are in the description below. And you can also sign up for our newsletter for you to receive all our story updates, also in the description below. So that's it. I remain Ezron from Ezronix. See you next week. Adios.